We're all getting older, and we've all got to accept it. And the strange parts of pop culture I didn't understand as a child might be completely foreign to you, dear listener. You might not even know there used to be only 3 channels on TV. I'm not that old, but when my parents were my age, they might have said something like that. Cher, one name only, was one half of Sony and Cher, a musical duo that was so successful in the 60s that they got 2 variety shows in the 70s. A very public relationship that ran on success, creative partnership, and addiction fell apart in 1975. So Cher took her fame with her and had more variety shows and albums and Vegas residencies and worldwide tours and success. Anyone that's had more than a decade of TV appearances might try actually acting, as this is when TV was for idiots and the stage and motion pictures were for the cultured. The Academy of Motion Pictures thought so much of her performance in today's motion picture, they gave her an Oscar for it. I'm glad I read that after I watched the movie. Moonstruck won 3 Academy Awards. Her mom in the movie is played by Olivia Dukakis, who was like a little-known stage actor who did an Oscar-winning performance. It's incredible. You'd see a lot of gold statues on the home release of Moonstruck. You may have heard of Cher's male counterpart in this movie, Nicolas Cage. But before you were old and doing movies to pay off tax debt and giving stolen dinosaur skulls back to Mongolia, you were young and you grow up as Hollywood royalty to being the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola. And he still wanted to be an actor. So he changes his name because he's young and he read Marvel Comics. He gets a few roles, but then is in Moonstruck, and the career is made publicly, if not critically. You know who Nicolas Cage is, probably. Now, here's the plot summary. Moonstruck has 37-year-old widower, Cher, proposed to by a 40-year-old baby man. The baby man fiancé has to go to Italy to be by the bedside of his dying mother, but he has a request for the wedding. He wants his estranged brother to come. He has Cher to meet the estranged brother, played by Nicolas Cage. Nicolas is a bread-making basement demon mangled and broken-hearted by an accident. They instantly fall in love. Now they need to pull their love apart so that Cher can get married to the nice baby man. Nick is not going to allow decency and respect to come between love. Meanwhile, Cher's parents and family are also living a full life, which breathes energy and complexity into this motion picture. It ends with all the characters around the breakfast table dropping sugar into champagne because it keeps the devil away. Everyone celebrating the moment, not the complex human problems that confronted them yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and so forth for every day of their lives. Love don't make things nice. It ruins everything. Today on Hinge Problems, 1987's Moonstruck.
Totally loving Roman movies.
Hey, we're talking New York here.
Literally.
I think the stereotypical New York Italian song would definitely be more like, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, it's amore.
Which is
That's
only
a
in
Hinge Problems.
apparently, according to IMDb, that's only in the movie because preview audiences, they initially had something from La Boheme in there, and preview audiences were put off by the movie starting with opera.
Which is amazing because the movie still starts with all the opera stuff, like getting like moved around and stuff, but then to the tune of That's Amore.
Yeah.
Friends, I was trying to start the show. Hello,
I
it's
know.
Hinge Problems. I'm Rudy. And you're trying to stop me.
Yeah, I'm Chris.
I'm Tigress.
Everything is temporary. That don't excuse nothing. I'm Shrug.
You know, much like all good podcasts, we have started tradition. And once again, it is April, and we are watching a Roman movies. And I want to say, good choice, Tigress.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a solid choice.
So why did you choose this one? And then let's just list stuff on IMDb for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we really want to be like other movie podcasts, don't we? So I had picked this one literally because I was like, literally back in college, which was a terrifyingly long amount of time ago for me now. What is that? Moonstruck. Oh, there's Cher. Nicolas Cage. And so in my head for years, there's always been this thing where it's like, hey, there's that one movie called Moonstruck that had Cher and Nicolas Cage. That one movie called Moonstruck with Nicolas Cage in it, also Cher. Didn't know too terribly much about it other than Nicolas Cage had a mangled hand. That he seemed kind of unhinged, but that's not that weird. He's Nicolas Cage. That's kind of his thing. And when you're trying to like find a romantic comedy kind of movie, I was thinking about stuff I'd heard of before. And I was like, hey, it's just finally time to find out what happens when Cher and Nicolas Cage fuck.
When a moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie.
Yeah, that's a
Oh.
Moonstruck.
Nicolas Cage plays a man who lost his hand in a bread cutting accident.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
that
important.
vicious slicer.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have I have a scar from a bread cutting accident, and I will tell you, actually, right before we started recording, I went to one of the 5 million beautiful bakeries in central Japan, and it was just open, so the bread was fresh, and they were very apologetic about telling me, "Look, you shouldn't cut the bread just yet because it just came out of the oven. We can do it for you, but it will be very soft, and it might get deflated." And I stumbled and failed at my Japanese that I couldn't get the phrasing right. And it was like, oh, whatever. So they cut it for me. And so how fortuitous that we were talking about this movie. Not at all. But watching the girl cut the bread and going, because those machines scare the hell out of me.
Hey,
Yeah.
Those machines have always scared me.
So I feel like this is like from a pacing perspective way too early in the podcast for it. But like I did work in a fucking bakery for a while.
Look, if every other LA comedian podcast, speaking of other podcasts, can just talk about local eateries, we can talk about our own history.
Yeah,
bread.
okay. So we should probably talk about what the movie's about, though, and just try to.
No, let's talk about.
Okay,
bread.
okay,
I'm here to
talk about
bread.
Okay. So what I just did was I took frozen loaves of bread, and put them on racks, and and then put them in ovens, and I would bake additional pre-frozen bread throughout the day. I'd put more bread out, but what part of my duty was the bread slicer. Other grocery stores of this particular Kroger substrain had bread slicer machines. They worked erratically, but nobody's hand was anywhere near it. not on mine. So whenever anybody wanted the bread sliced, which was of course one of my least favorite times of any particular day, because it meant I had to interact with a customer to do more than answer a question. Because every time I cut the bread, I got to stop whatever the fuck I'm doing, wash my hands, get new gloves. It's a whole song and dance. And like by the time I'm alone, 90% of what I'm doing is cleaning. So of course I gotta have my hands washed. But like what? And then time to pull this fucker in the bread slicer, and we didn't really have a tool for it. It wouldn't go through without pushing. That's one thing. It's very important to know.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we did was we had a brush. We had a brush that was for brushing off the crumbs that absolutely was not up to like health and safety practices, but what we had. But even then, a lot of the time you'd still have to sort of reach down on the other side, which was better because the blades weren't like aimed at your hand. But, kind of gingerly pull the bread, caress the bread forward through the terrifying industrial knives. But yeah, sometimes the bread pusher wouldn't work. Sometimes you couldn't pull it yet. And so you just had to kind of get your hand in there and see how much you could push it.
And sometimes your brother shows up
and sometimes your brother shows
and
up.
distracts you.
just the wrong time,
at just the wrong time, and you're Nicolas Cage.
and so your hand gets shoved in the bread slicer, and that's what you blame for your marriage falling
and then
apart.
That's
you're
amore.
That's
and
Do you
amore
think they
right
do
there.
you think did they keep the bread slicer? Do you think that the bakery kept the bread slicer?
Oh, they kept the bread slicer.
Do you know how expensive that shit is?
Yeah, they washed it down. I mean, they had somebody wash it down good, but they kept it. They didn't sell that thing.
I do have one other detail about that bakery job was I also had to work the pastry and chocolate counter when nobody else was around. You know the brand of chocolate we sold, Moonstruck, which is the movie we're talking about today.
Holy shit.
Wow. Corporate tie-in. Blah, 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 blah. Official Moonstruck brand chocolate available at Kroger.
Yeah, it's a real brand. Look it up. They were pretty good.
Right.
Look it up. There you go. She said the catchphrase. She said it. Look it up.
That's gonna be on the shirt when we make shirts. Google it.
That is. So, friends, when Cher says I'm 37, how hurt were you all?
Oh, I was just like too busy excited that there was a movie about a woman in her mid-30s.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. I was just like, wow, it's a movie about a woman in her mid-30s.
I mean, that's still younger than me.
Yeah. I mean, she's a little older than me, but I'm hurtling towards it, so
Yeah, I don't know. I was a little like, wow. I'm past that now. That hurts.
Yeah, how did you feel about that emotionally? Also, someone's like, huh, yeah, I guess this woman is younger than me. I guess that's going to start happening in fiction.
Oh,
that's-
it happens all the
Everyone's going to be
time.
younger
that's-
than me.
I'm 33, so it's happening all the time because no woman in a movie can be older than 27 9 times out of 10. So plus, like they still aim younger, and the thing that's like actually horrifying to me is like when new people are like 25. That's whatever. I know there's always going to be younger people than me. It's when I start noticing the things. It's like, am I older than William Shatner on Star Trek now? There's going to be a point when be a point he looks young to me.
Well, and that's the thing that's going on with like Cher in this movie for me is I'm 42 and she's 37 and I'm like, man, so I'm like
I have worse news
awkwardly older.
That for you, Buji.
Oh, she was actually 40 when
She was actually 41 when the movie
Yeah,
so
but still younger than me.
And to play my card, full on flooded basement upon seeing Nicolas Cage as a young Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I had to fan myself.
Jesus Christ.
Nicolas Cage is basically introduced as a cryptid in this.
Yes.
He is.
Cher
They keep him in the basement.
Cher is engaged comically to Danny Aiello, who leaves town to see his dying mother and says, "Hey, I need you to fucking call my brother. We don't get along anymore. For some reason, I'm foisting this upon you. Call my brother, make sure he comes to our wedding in a month." So she calls him the first time, and the way that he's framed, answering the phone, he's wearing a tank top, absolutely covered in sweat with his back to the camera. Just this looming, shadowy figure. Mildly jacked for a Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, for Nicolas Cage, it's pretty solidly jacked.
You never see his face. He's just bellowing at her. What's wrong can never be made right. It's kind of weird. This movie is kind of weird.
It's kind of a weird movie.
It's extremely strange. He seems like an ominous presence that can only bring pain, confusion, terror. And maybe in a way he does.
Yeah,
but
I mean he does all that.
It's an interesting way to introduce one of your romantic leads.
It's also hot as hell.
Yeah. It has this it has this cyclical thing that this movie does where it will ratchet up tension hugely and then completely deflate it for a joke. Like, because it's like, why did he do it? Who's this guy? Is he a criminal or something? No, he's a guy who works in a bakery who looked away for the wrong minute and put his hand in the bread slicer.
Oh yeah, and at the end of his introductory scene, he's framed shoveling more coal into a furnace.
Yes.
It's like he's a demon from hell.
Yeah. Yeah, like this is the most like forge like bakery I've ever seen.
Is
Like-
this the Catholic imagery I heard about?
He's in hell. Yeah, I
Okay.
guess. You could,
Well,
you could say,
you're saying like a demon made this a demon made this bakery. So you think that Satan made this bakery?
I mean, okay, like we didn't really have. Well, okay, actually, they closed down the stove. Like I was thinking about the bakery I worked at. It's like, well, we did actually have a flame stove, but they closed that down because that promotion was over. But they sure still had a gas stove that we used for storage.
But this is New York. This is how they make it. The water.
it's the
The
old
water.
world.
It's-
Yeah.
It's the
It's
original
the basement where we have the
flavor.
bakery that's really hot and fiery.
I think that looked like a real bakery.
Oh
though.
no, it did. It did.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
like they were playing
All
that
that
up.
bread.
That looks so fucking good. That bread looks so fucking good.
I bet demons
Um,
would make good bread.
Yeah. I mean it's carbs, so
Yeah, it's
You know.
would make hella good bread.
The demons are going into the bread. His pain, his anguish, every day into flavor.
I mean, mine certainly fucking did. Uh,
But on the flip side of the how much it flooded the basement, like it never really it glamorizes Cher as Cher looking into a mirror, but there's not a lot of moments of we're supposed to like and like people comment on it, but she's never framed in the camera like look how beautiful she is.
yeah.
Not I
Um,
don't know if that's it's a conversation topic, but it's a
Well,
point to make.
the thing about it is that the object of gaze in this movie, much like our previous Roman movies, is pretty clearly at like men. Like there's a couple characters in this movie where like men are framed as hot or not hot, very pointedly.
sorry, Danny Aiello.
Yeah. Yes. And it's interesting because it's very, very much from the perspective of the women. It's a very well, this is a very cishet movie and a movie. It is still nevertheless one that is sort of mostly concerned with like what the women are thinking is in the movie, and we have a much better idea of what Cher, I don't even know what her character's name is. Cher and
Loretta.
Loretta Castorini Clark.
It's very from her perspective, except for the other half of the movie, which is from her mom's perspective, which is
Yeah.
kind of one of the thing I did not know about and found the movie quite interesting was that this was much less of a straightforward rom-com and much more of an ensemble comedy, family comedy.
Rose.
Not like a comedy for families, but a comedy about a family.
Rose's the mother is always asking, "Why do men chase women?"
Played by Olympia Dukakis.
Lovely
And-
name. I love that name. Olympia.
A lot of the movie is about being frustrated with and reacting to the actions of men
Yeah.
and how bewildering and frustrating those actions are, which is, I think, very different from a lot of media that deal with intergender relations,
Yeah.
which are about how bitches be crazy.
And,
And there's none other than, you know, there's a big montage in the middle of this where the moon's really big, and it's suggested that the really big moon is driving some people wild, and that includes women. There is no bitches be crazy in this movie.
yeah.
It's just dudes fucking suck, and why do they suck so much? How are we going to handle men sucking so much?
Yeah. And it's not like your usual thing where it's like, and now it's time for the woman to completely ignore these problems or fix the men, which is the other interesting thing about it. Because Ronnie, Nicolas Cage, is very much like she likes how like scary he is. She likes how wild he is in this movie. I mean, we could write a billion hour pages about the politics of that, but like that sort of thing. And it's not a movie about her fixing him at all. And it's not, and the sort of failing relationship of her parents, it's like has this honesty about the like dysfunction between them.
Yeah, the messiness of relationships and how you deal with it. Like Shrug's comment about it, bitches be crazy
Yeah.
in other movies. Which is like, what are you like that general statement is always what are you going to do about it? And this is very very astute on both your parts of saying like this movie is about how do you navigate that and still and how the women navigate that and still maintain a relationship with weirdos, womanizers, and the fact that all men are big old babies.
It's got a lot of layers for like a kind of weird comedy drama to it. Because we see a lot of different portraits of masculinity too. Like we have Cher and her mom, who are kind of like mirrors of each other in a lot of ways. Like, yeah, like
Incredible casting, by the way, that outside of their her mom being an incredible performance, that they look like mom and daughter.
Yeah, they really do. They
Yeah,
really
good
do.
job.
They look about the same as like my mom and me. Like that was pretty that was pretty wild. Is that they're both clearly, they're both clearly, cut from a very similar cloth, but like at the same time you get the impression that let's see, that Cosmo, her dad, is a lot more like is a lot more like her fiance than somebody else than Ronnie. Because like, yeah, he's fine. There's the refrain early. Do you love him? No, I don't. Oh, do you like him? Yes, mom.
Well,
And
she
her
says,
mom's
"Do you
like,
love him?" And she says, "No."
no,
She says, "Good. When you
good.
love them, they really drive you crazy."
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see that in the dinner scene of like this already like pre-married comfort to relationship of her kind of having to baby him and also like completely oblivious to her needs, wants, and desires.
I love how that. Oh, so that scene sort of right at the beginning, Danny Aiello says that incredibly misogynistic line about a man who can't control his woman or something, and then like right away is like she's like, no, do this, you got to do this, dude, like come on, like stop
Yeah.
it. Like it's a great like immediate like undercutting of him trying to be the tough misogynistic guy, and she's like, just stop it, you can't propose to me like this, come on.
And like how he proposes is also incredible, because like he's bring out the dessert cart, and he's got this huge dessert, and then while the dessert's coming, he's like, hey, do you want to marry me?
Yeah, he just blurts it
Yeah,
out.
yeah. It's and she, because she believes this is a motif throughout the film, is the idea of curses and luck and the influence of like forces and ritual upon you. In that she's very adamant that her first husband died because she didn't get married right. They got married at City Hall instead of a big wedding, and he didn't propose to her on a knee, and there wasn't a ring involved, and she
And her
wants
dad
all of
didn't attend.
her dad didn't attend, and she's adamant that this is going to go well this time, which is why she has an affair naturally. Because she meets a guy who's Nicolas Cage and is incredibly sweaty and hot and bakes and has a hand partially made of wood.
We're circled back around to it, so I wanted to ask, how do you feel about that first kiss?
That honestly was like the one of the issues I had the most of this movie. Is there were ways that could have been shot that would have made it seem less more consensual, let's say. And it is, the movie wants you to go, she's into this.
it's there's so much better energy if she does the kiss.
Yeah. Like you could have shot that exact same scene. He turns over the table. They both are tense, and then she leans into him immediately, and they start making out. Would change the scene entirely, right?
Does that change the relationship at all, though?
Yeah.
I kind of think what they were going for there, though, was like an inversion of what happened in the Danny Aiello scene, where
Yeah.
she's taking charge and making Danny Aiello do things, and it's the inversion of that, and where now Nicolas Cage is taking charge and getting her to do things, but that has a whole lot of baggage
Yeah,
to go
right.
along
Yeah.
with it as an idea. So, and I
Well,
don't think
what-
the movie necessarily earns its way out of that baggage.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, he doesn't seem to want to dominate. Like she doesn't want somebody to dominate her, because the thing is, well, he's very perhaps creepily insistent throughout the film. There is an like she's not entirely just letting him do whatever. She wants to see the opera. She sees, because that's another thing, he wants to see the opera. He has this tender side to him, which is depicted as weird because it would be.
Yeah, that he's really
yeah.
weird and sweet. No, you're making these good points that, like, when they meet for the opera, she reestablishes all these rules and controls and boundaries.
Yeah.
Like the first sex scene is the one time where she isn't
Yeah.
stating boundaries.
Yeah.
Even right after, even like during the moon scene afterwards, she starts restating what the boundaries are.
And
It's like,
what she
okay,
does
in the morning
ultimately-
I'm leaving. In the morning I'm leaving, etc., etc.
Yeah. And like there is some, like, how hard he's pushing is kind of, that can be gross. It's one of those tough things where it's like, it works in the context of the movie, and in real life I would not be comfortable with this, but this is a world of fiction.
Yeah, I think that's maybe where the acting's failing just a little bit. But the chemistry just a tiny bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, the thing about this movie, when I dug into it, is apparently everybody else was on the same page about the tone of the movie, and Nicolas Cage is like, I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah, yeah, he was.
And that really comes across in the movie, that Nicolas Cage is in a completely different movie from everyone else.
Yeah, no, it's actually kind of great because
Yeah.
like in a way, like the movie's trying to kind of show Cher's character's life is, in chaos a bit. She's not sure what she's doing and everything. And like it is so much is added to it by the sort of central locus of that chaos being this dude who's in another movie.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, there's an
whose very
argument.
existence is chaotic the whole
Yeah.
time.
There's an argument this is a werewolf film.
Yeah.
The original, he is called a wolf,
Yeah, there's a lot of
And
talk about
that's the
wolves
thing.
in this movie.
and the
There's-
original title was The Wolf and the Bride.
Why didn't you wait for the right man again?
Because he didn't come.
I'm here.
You're late.
One odd little thing about the motifs in this movie is that it often introduces them and doesn't totally resolve them. Like the stuff with the curse, it's just this, like, there's a curse that the movie's sort of like later.
And the mother subplot is really where you see, like, this script needed about 3 or 4 more passes.
The mother subplot to me worked because it works with what the movie is doing. That's like a different portrait of masculinity, because the other thing that happens in this
No,
film,
I mean her fiance's mother.
oh, her fiance, yeah,
Where it seems like
Oh, the Sicilian
it
mother
seems-
that
it's-
just
it
kind of
seems
is
like
just
it seems like Nicolas Cage was not told he
yes.
has a mother.
yeah,
Yes!
yeah. Nicolas Cage's
They-
I didn't
character
even
just
think about
doesn't deal with his mom at all.
They address that he doesn't get along with his mother.
Yeah, they throw it away as one line, but then like
Even though she's on her deathbed, etc., etc. It's like, yeah, you know what? Whatever. Who cares?
There's people like that.
it's very funny compared to like that, Danny Aiello is like, going over to Sicily to visit the dying mom. Nick Cage couldn't give a fuck. And like, that isn't played as any point of tension really between them. Like the bread slicer incident, that's the point of tension between them. Not that one of them clearly does not care about their family at all. Whereas the other one is
Well,
still,
yeah.
it's just very funny how much Danny Aiello's character is revolving around this concept of family and stuff, and like Nick Cage isn't.
He works in the
it-
he works in the family bakery though.
Yeah.
So who knows what their interfamilial politics are exactly?
Yeah,
And there's shop clerk girl for one scene who's like, I'm sorry if I'm stealing a guy, but shop clerk girl who's like, I love him, and I'll never know. Okay, thanks for stating your character development.
I mean, the thing about that guy is that he basically does whatever his mom says, and when his mom dies, he wants a woman to replace his mom.
And the flip side there is Ronnie, when he introduces himself to the family, is like really immediately he wants to make a good impression. He wants to integrate with him as fast as possible, right? Because he loves this woman so much, and spoilers, I found the love here genuine, that he wants to be in it.
Yeah.
But his own mom, and also like, okay, if I can resolve this with my brother for the sake of this love I have, all the better. But my mother, whatever. I have a mother? What? Okay. That wasn't in my script. I'm sorry.
I kind of see where you go there, but I was also like watching this movie. It's like, one of the things it's so good at is like the complexity of familial relationships and the ways that like you get along with your parents or don't get along with your parents, and these, it's not like an all or nothing thing. It's not this, it's not, and your parents don't agree on stuff, and your parents have their own tension, which is basically the entire other half of the movie, which is that her mom almost cheats on her dad, and her dad cheats on her mom.
Her dad like super cheats on
super
her
cheats.
mom. Like her mom sort of stumbles into having a date with a guy and they talk a lot. Like her dad is having a full on like affair with this woman that he buys gifts for and takes to the opera. Like, yeah.
Yeah, but he's doing it for fun, and she's doing it for this connection, and just like to have a nicer feeling again.
Yeah.
Where he's like, yeah, I can control this woman and get my bone down.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's lit the entire movie like Jabba the Hutt.
He won't pay for his daughter's wedding, but he will buy jewelry for his mistress.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because the
on
movie
top of whatever else.
It's very he could afford it very easily. There's no financial tension there, which does lead to one like really weird subplot in the movie, which made me think there was a deleted scene or something they changed because of like test audiences or something. Which is that she steals a bunch of money in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, she just walks away with a sack full of cash.
So she just spent her aunt and uncle's shop money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it makes it seem like, or at least implies.
I don't think she did.
And so but it is weird later in the movie where it's like they make a big point that she's got that she's handling that money, and then they make a big point later about how no, she just forgot to deposit it.
It's basically an excuse to have the aunt and the uncle in the final scene, so everybody can be there together.
Yeah, like the one of the things I actually kind of liked in this movie is that, especially near the ending, it becomes very apparent that like the whole thing is structured like opera, like a stage production, and so you have to have all the main characters get together at the end in the final scene somehow. And so, the money is a good excuse to get the uncle and aunt to show up because they've been there the whole time.
And kind of one of the central joke is, in some ways, it's not, because there's a lot of stuff going on in all the scenes before it, but the movie is structured like a Shaggy dog joke. Because the central conflict is clearly she's cheating on her fiancé, she loves this other man a lot more. How is that going to resolve? They're going to have, there's going to be this fight, there's going to be this big conflict, there's going to be all this stuff, and then at the end of the movie, there isn't.
Danny Aiello just shows up and says, "My mother's alive, but I can't marry you because my mother will die if I get married.
If I marry you, she'll die." So there we go.
And I'm perfectly fine with you marrying my little brother.
Yeah.
Everything's cool.
Because he's a fucking wimp.
He looks like minorly upset about it, but it lasts like 30 seconds.
He has champagne with everyone else. It's great. Everyone
Yeah,
is
it's like
getting along.
you're part of the family now.
Yeah, he goes and sits mopey over in the corner for like 30 seconds, and then Grandpa comes over and is like, come on, you're getting in on this. He's like, all right.
Okay.
I like your grandpa's little adventure in the movie.
I really like the grandpa.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
the grandpa. He's got a whole bunch of dogs. He howls
5
at the moon with
dogs.
them. Bella Luna.
Yeah, he just talks about the moon in Italian a lot.
And another perfect little encapsulation of like the complications in familiar relations, in that he sees to his eyes like, oh, my daughter-in-law is cheating. My son is probably also cheating, but my daughter-in-law is cheating, and they exchange looks, and they're just like, don't need to say anything about it.
Yeah, everybody knows that this is a dysfunctional marriage.
Yeah, well, but I did appreciate, like Rudy's saying, that the grandpa sees it, and he's clearly like a little like, but then he's also just like, I ain't saying shit. Like,
Yeah.
Like, you know what you're doing. You know
yeah,
what you're
this
doing.
is
You know what
your
and
marriage, not mine.
Yeah. Well, you know what you're doing, and you know what I think about it.
Yeah.
And I know you well enough that that guilt will hang on you to your own decision.
Grandpa's not a snitch. It's fine.
Because Shrug just posted it in our chat, I have to talk about this. The priest is really framed like it's going to reveal to be someone when she goes to confession. It's really like,
yeah, it had that cut character feeling, like this is going to be someone that was going to show up in the rest of the movie and then just is not. So
like a lot of the scenes in this movie are in fact just one-off gags, which is one of the odd things about the movie's whole structure. It's just like there's a bunch of scenes that are just a gag.
Yeah, or just like a character, but who's only a character for a scene and never gonna show up again. Like the previously mentioned, girl falling in love with Nick Cage, who's never gonna tell him, and that's it. That's all she does. She's gone. Never come back.
I like it though. It makes the movie feel like it's in this big, complicated community.
Oh yeah,
It really feels like, I don't know if this is accurate to Italian American subculture in New York, but it really does feel like this is a community of interconnected families and interconnected friendships, and everybody's a little bit connected to everybody else, and all the ways that that their lives intertwine is working in the background, but not necessarily foregrounded.
Like, I have this line here, and I guess this is the time to reveal it. It's like, this is a movie full of one-liners, and not just like quips, but like things you want to put as the quote in your yearbook. It's filled with that sort of stuff, or the end your internet profile quotes. And yet it is also trying to be sincere.
Yeah.
And it's mostly working, which is a weird balancing act.
That's the weird thing about this movie, is I kept thinking mathematically this movie shouldn't work at all, but it does.
It has a lot of respect and affection for its characters.
Yeah.
And the jokes never undermine the characters. Like, it can be very silly, but not in a way that disrespects anybody.
And everybody behaves like the characters are very, very tightly written too. That's a lot of what makes the movie work, is the people. Everything that happens in this movie happens because of who these people are. Like, there's very few wacky coincidental circumstances except for a gag, right? Like the woman cursing a plane. I loved that. I'm cursing that plane to fall over the ocean. And, it's great. I don't want to just quote this movie because there's a ton of stuff I love in there, but
it is full of quotes.
It's full of quotes. Actually, I was looking at my notes right now, and the quote that stuck out from my note, because we didn't talk about it in the Nicolas Cage introduction scene, is where he just starts yelling for someone to go get him a giant knife so he can cut his own throat.
Chrissy, bring me the big knife.
The big knife!
I'm gonna cut my throat. Yeah. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, hot Nick Cage is just pure chaos beast right now, and I don't get it. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. But like, yeah, everybody has a very clear character, and they all do stuff according to their character. It's as basic as that sounds. It was such a great. It just works. It's this weird little clockwork box of plot elements.
I think we're barreling towards it.
Yeah, I
Bougie?
think we are.
Are we going straight to Review Town? Okay. Why
Choo
not?
choo.
We're saying reviewy
Choo-choo.
things. We should just do it. Yeah.
Yes. Let's just review it. So, as always, each time we pick something from the movie to be a symbol that we will rate on a scale of 1 to 5 for the individual movie. I had a few ideas for this one, but I think just because we mentioned it very briefly, but they mention it so many times in the movie, the word comes up. I'm going to say we rate this on a scale of 1 to 5 wolves.
Oh,
Oh.
the wolves inside of us.
The wolves inside of us. Yeah, exactly.
My God, 5 wolves inside of me. That's a lot of wolves.
That's a lot of wolves. Yeah.
That's a lot
Well,
of
and
fucking
even
wolves.
the mom at one point says, what does she say? She says, like, I've seen a wolf in everyone I've met. I recall, that's
Oh.
the mom that says that very early in the movie.
Well, I think Shrug, you stumble over there. Are you giving it 5 wolves?
Yeah, shrug, kick us out.
This movie's fun. It breezed by. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's probably evidenced by the body of the cast. Nicolas Cage exists. Cher is solid. You get to see a lot of older people dealing with issues of romance in ways that you very rarely get to in like a Hollywood movie. And I think that's pretty great. I give Moonstruck 4 wolves out of 5. There are 4 wolves inside me, all baying at the unusually large moon, or as some call it, Cosmo's moon. Tigress is unmuted. Tigress, what do you think of Moonstruck?
I kind of loved it. I went into it and I did specifically pick something when I was like thinking about movies that I was like pretty sure had a decent chance of being good. And I was pretty sure it's like I can't imagine there not being something entertaining about unhinged Nicolas Cage in a film. And yeah, the movie was very charming and it was very disarming. I actually in Roman movie spirit this time I watched it with my boyfriend. A little date night. I liked it more than he. um he thought Nicolas Cage was kind of creepy in the movie, and I completely, that is completely legit. The thing that it kept coming back to watching it is I liked that it was a movie of kind of weird looking people who behave in kind of weird, but still fairly grounded except for Nicolas Cage ways. And how much it was about these relationships and how very honest and very, true everything in this film felt, even when it had scenes that bordered on magical realism. Um, with like the dogs howling at the moon with Grandpa, or the whole thing about Cosmo, the no, Cher's mom brought not Cher's mom, Cher's dad, bringing down the moon, Cosmo's moon. It was just really, it was a well constructed movie, and very rarely is a punchline just, oh yeah, everybody freaked out over nothing. But it worked. It kept working, and it worked the whole time. The I and there is like sort of a thesis in the middle of the movie where Nicolas Cage has this whole long monologue about how, a snowflake is perfect, the stars are perfect, humans aren't perfect. The point of being human is to be imperfect, to screw up, to do dumb, crazy things. And the movie is about a bunch of imperfect people doing dumb, crazy things. There isn't, it's not super deep. I don't think it's going, it's not like really pushing movies or anything, but it was just beautifully shot, beautifully constructed, beautifully acted, has as Shrug said, great affection for the characters. And I found myself having great great affection for everybody in this movie. Okay, the guy who like keeps trying to date his college students was kind of a creep, but he's definitely a creep in the movie. But even then, he's human. He's a creep, but he's a human creep. I give this one four wolves howling at the beautiful moon in the sky. So uh Rudy, how many wolves sing in your heart about this film?
Let's see here. I also watched this with my significant other, Lady Rude. Um, said, I guess I had a good time. I don't have a lot to say about it. She did sit up in her seat and was really confused at when Nicolas Cage and Cher started fucking, and she had to pause the movie and go, "Why are they doing that?" And I went, "Because they're hot for each other." And she went, "Okay," in a sort of exasperated tone. And I wanted to mention here because we are not other movie podcasts, so we got through this whole thing about mentioning how many Oscars this movie won. That Cher won an Oscar for this performance. Don't know about that. Uh, the guy who played her dad, Vincent Gardenia, was a nominee. Olympia Dukakis won Best Actress for supporting role. Absolutely, holy crap, she deserves that. And it was nominated, and it lost to a war movie, which was The Last Emperor. Will we cover that in the future? Maybe. It's 1988 versus 1998. That said, I have enjoyed our talk about this, and I have thought about we don't compare movies, but I'm comparing my emotional state in other movies we have watched. And this movie does what it wants to do. It succeeds at it. It has complex, deep emotional responses. It does the things I want in other movies, and that we see how other characters are reacting to what someone's doing. Which, hey, that's what I like. We're seeing how people's moods change, and that these are complicated human beings going through emotions, and it's messy. So I was going to give this 4 wolves inside me, but I got to give it full 5 because it succeeds at what it does, and what it does is messy because life is messy.
Yeah. Okay, so I enjoyed this movie. I didn't watch it with my significant other. I watched it by myself earlier today. Um, but that being said, I laughed at Lady Rude's reaction to that scene because that was my initial reaction. I was like, "What? Whoa! We skipped a little bit." Um, that being said, I actually really liked this movie a lot. I liked that this movie, without having a big talk about it, really was a lot about the ideas of like monogamy and what those mean to people and how do you negotiate that in a long-term relationship, and what, and how different adults can have different ways of approaching it, and what the idea of marriage can mean to someone. Is it settling down with someone? Is it waiting for true love? Is it, all these different things? And Cher's character is figuring that out as she goes. And yeah, everyone in this movie is messy. There's a lot of messy people in this movie, which is really, really good. And I all I knew about this movie before was that Cher won an Oscar for it, because that was like one of the first like Oscars I sort of remember in my mind. I don't know why I remember that. Why 7-year-old me remembers that, but whatever. That's all I knew about it, was Cher won an Oscar for it. Um, but I like that everybody's messy. I like that it's not rom-com clean about everything. Everyone's kind of making mistakes, and it's okay. It's fine. Everyone's moving forward with that. What else was I going to say? There was something else that was on my mind that just instantly disappeared. Oh well. Um, Anyhow, yeah. So I liked the characters. I liked the messiness. I did kind of. I actually appreciated how much this felt like it could fall into like Italian stereotype jokes, and somehow actually managed to avoid it despite also embodying all of them. It was very, very interesting in that regard. And I think it's because of, as Shrug mentioned, the affection it has for the characters. It's not making fun of them. It likes the characters. Um, Nick Cage, I actually really liked, because like his character being so chaotic and over the top and incredibly overdramatic about things. When they brought in that he, the other thing he loved other than Cher was opera, I was like, oh, of course, he thinks he's an opera character. He's living his whole life like he's a damn opera character. And has to do everything over the top dramatic and, all these broad gestures. And that suddenly made sense. And I like that. I like that he was a mess. Anyhow, to sum it up, I like this movie. I'm going to go with 4 wolves out of 5 wolves inside of me.
Excellent. But who was the guy that got inside your heart? Or the gal that got inside your heart, Bougie?
The guy that got inside of my heart is Bobo from the beginning, the weird little waiter.
What a good waiter. Oh, I would love a waiter
Bobo.
like that.
Bobo's
Bobo's
wonderful.
the best. He's so good. And he's just very enthusiastic, and he hanging off on the side, waiting to see what happens with the proposal. And he's just runs right in, and he's just a very you want a Bobo when you go to a nice, not even like a fancy restaurant, but a nice restaurant. You want a Bobo waiter there to be just like a very, very good guy.
I like too that he says that he says that what's his name? Is the Cher's fiance is where he's like says like, oh, he's been a bachelor for 20 years and he's been such a good customer.
Yeah, he's such a good bachelor customer for 20 years. And he's lamenting that he's losing this single guy. He's like, oh, he's not going to bring any more dates here. He's not going to come here on his own. Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact, which, illustrates, he's been dating for 20 years, and the only person who's marrying him is marrying him because she needs a second husband, and she's aging and wants to be with someone who's, nice enough.
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah.
Danny, good enough, Aiello.
Solid C+ of a man.
There's also that implication of like, that I absolutely could not get around in my dating life of the guy who brings the new date to the same restaurant.
Yeah,
every time.
He's got one restaurant, and it's this restaurant.
Especially in a city like New York, I could never. That's like completely outside of my personality, which maybe says something about his character that he brings every date to the same restaurant.
Oh, Danny Aiello's character is played very much as like safe. Does the same thing, routine over and over, nothing, no chaos here. You're not going to get any Chrissy, get me the big knife from Danny Aiello. He's just going to C+ the whole time. I guess, Tigress, who's your guy or girl?
It's tough. My usual go-to for girl is just like a main character in this movie, which is the mom. And I don't want to use her because she's not one of those. She's too big, too full. So I was racking my brain for characters I remember, and I was like halfway thinking about the gal who's hot, but it's like I honestly didn't remember her till Shrug showed that. So what I'm gonna go with, the guy who gets sold fucking copper pipe.
So many little scenes in this movie. Good one. Good choice.
That's such a great. Yeah, it's this Cosmo Sully. Yeah, I love this thing where he goes up to a pipe and he scrapes off a little bit of paint from the pipe. It says it's gonna be $10,000, and they're like, $10,000? Why? And and he gives this whole spiel about how you could do it, it'll be fine.
There's 3 kinds of pipe.
There's 3 kinds of pipe.
There are 3 kinds of pipe. There's the kind of pipe you have, which is garbage.
And the wife was like, we are clearly getting ripped off. There is no way this cost $10,000 in 1987 in 1987 American. And the husband hears the whole spiel, and because he's a dude getting pitched to by a dude, just completely believes it. Just completely believes this guy. And I like that they do enough signifiers. It's like, these people are like, even though this like place is redundant, like these 2 people like bought this thing. They clearly have money. They radiate
it.
Yeah, they're gentrifying. They radiate 1980s yuppie money. They just radiate it. So they are just unlikable enough that you don't feel bad that they're getting scammed.
Is your guy the situation, or
maybe that I'm specifically the dude, and just like, if I'm narrowing it down, the dude, because he's just so just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's just such a mark.
Yeah,
Like you just see it on his forehead.
yeah. It's incredible. It's incredible how dumb this man is.
So it's more caught your eye versus
Yeah.
embodied you.
Yeah, I guess in this case, yeah. I mean, like
Yeah.
the problem is like I felt embodied by the two leading women in this movie so hard in a lot of ways that it was hard for me to like look at the side characters because, like I said, the characters who I always call out to in these movies, they were the main characters in this one.
Yeah, can't some guys start shooting at each other so these can't be the main characters anymore? So Tigers can pick one of them. Come on.
Shrug, who is your guy?
My guy is Uncle Capomaggi. He is generally good-humored. He tells an embarrassing story about Cosmo that clearly makes him uncomfortable at the dinner table. And he really, really loves that big moon.
It's Cosmo's moon.
You stole my guy.
After
Again.
after that big moon makes him horny, and he has a nice night of adult adventures with his similarly middle-aged wife. He says to her, "I got no sleep, but I feel like Orlando Furioso," giving me an opportunity to say, "I get that reference, and that makes me feel good about myself. When I understand things, I like it."
That's Star Wars, baby.
I'm like, yeah, I know what I know an Italian epic poem. I'm so
Boom.
special and great. Thanks, Uncle Capomaggi.
Honorary Italian shrug here.
Uh-huh. So Rudy,
Yeah, I had this whole spiel like Perry, Uncle Cosmani absolutely embodies my attitude in life. Of course, I would get obsessed with something stupid like that, and I would be joyful and giddy. You all know me. This is my personality.
Yes.
This is what Rudy's been doing the entire time I've known him.
consider it Rudy affection by proxy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you still have to come up with another guy.
I
still do.
come up
Yeah,
with another
you can't just barnacle onto another person's guy. Come on, you
Yeah.
got to get known of your own.
Screw it, my guy's grandpa because someone tell a joke.
No,
joke.
Grandpa's great line was someone tell a joke.
Oh, so
Tell a
tell
joke.
joke.
Yeah,
I'm
when it's
yeah,
awkward as shit at the table when they realize.
Yeah, like
it's
a
the-
guy in our podcast just now.
Yeah.
Yeah. His dogs, his dogs, he has so much affection for.
I will also say, because Lady Ruby is kind of like staring at her phone for like the first 20 minutes. Also because there was no Japanese or English subtitles, she was like pretty confused by the dialogue. And then I went, "Look, dogs," and then she looked up. So her guy, I think, is the dogs.
I mean, they're good dogs.
I believe, if I remember correctly, please be kind to me if I am not. I believe my boyfriend quite liked the grandpa in the film.
Yeah.
I almost
Being
went
very
for
fond
another guy.
of dogs.
My undermining of Rudy was almost prevented. I almost went for the lamp. I almost went for the lamp that's next to their bar service. It has a nice rose painted on it, and I'm basically someone's great grandfather. So, I'm like, I'd like that lamp. That's
That'd
a
be a good
cool,
lamp.
nice lamp.
Yeah, I feel bad if we don't leave without talking about all the food we looked at in the movie. Had
A
a
lot of
great time
food.
looking at all that food.
Thought of how every pastry in this movie looks fucking amazing.
I love that breakfast too. Oh, I looked at
Yeah.
that breakfast so bad.
Everything was so good looking. But yeah, that was. We should get on this tangent. God, the food was so good.
So this has been Roman Movies. Next time is again, finally, Last of the Mohicans.
I'm sure. The
Yeah.
next time is
Yes.
Last of the Mohicans. Yeah.
Yeah, shrug.
Wait, no,
shrug.
no, I'm mistaken. Next time is, of course, Sink the Bismarck. No, wait. I got it wrong again.
No.
We're not doing. Rudy, don't even fucking joke about doing that movie again.
Which is to say, next time, the movie is Run Silent, Run Deep. This has been Roman Movies. Call your grandma, cuddle up to your loved one, and shoot the hinges. I've been Rudy.
I'm Chris. Shoot the hinges.
Sorry, Chris. Is that what we shoot the hinges?
I'm Shrug. Orlando Furiosa is an Italian epic poem by Ludovico Ariosto, which has exerted a wide influence on later culture. The earliest version appeared in 1516, although the poem was not published in its complete form until 1532. Orlando Furioso is a continuation of Matteo Maria Biodardo's unfinished romance Orlando Innamorato, Orlando in Love, published posthumously in 1495. In its historical setting and characters, it shares some features with the Old French Chanson de Roland of the 11th century, which tells of the death of Roland. The story is also a chivalric romance, which stemmed from a tradition beginning in the late Middle Ages and continuing in the